Prep with me while I tell you my culinary story. I feel like I haven't made this video yet. I've been procrastinating making this video because it's going to be way longer than 2 minutes. But screw the short form world. This video is going to be as long as it needs to be because I'm going to tell you my entire culinary life story. I would say I'm definitely one of those people where this job found me, this career path found me, because I cooked as a kid a lot. I love cooking. I was making Christmas dinner at like 12. It's just something I've always been interested in. Both of my parents cooked. We ate at home a lot. They're both immigrants. And so we kind of like, I feel like a lot of American culture is like, nobody cooks. Like everyone cooked. So it wasn't like a gender role. It was just kind of like a thing that we did. And when I was like 12, I just kind of started cooking every day for my family. So that was cool. I did a lot of experimenting, and that was actually when I first started making cooking content. I got absolutely no traction, nothing. Anyway, I've told that story a bunch of times, but growing up, when it came time to like actually pick a career path, I always told myself I love cooking. I don't want to do it for a living. It's going to ruin the fun. Oh my God, that splashed everywhere. It's going to ruin everything. Like, I do not want to be a professional chef. I will never do that. That's what I told myself. You guys see the end of that story, but I didn't at the time. So I am still obsessed with snowboarding. But at the time, it was like the main driving factor of my life. And so I decided to major in ski resort management, which is a business degree. So I do feel like I don't regret that. Like, I still use it. But I learned a lot of business. But my goal was to go into the ski industry and eventually manage an entire ski resort. And I actually did that for 2 years. I was working at a ski resort. I was working in mountain ops. And those of you who read my book know that that was a really fun time. I got promoted to supervisor, and I actually learned so much about managing people and leadership from that job. I did that like kind of between the ages of 20 and 22, which is like when I probably should have been going to culinary school, but I did that instead. I learned, why is this not? Oh my God, that's the balsamic lid. Oh my God, this already had multitasking, I tell you. Okay. That's probably when I should have been going to culinary school, but I was doing that instead. I learned how to work 13-hour days of physical labor. I learned how to be the only woman in a department of 30 men and be their boss. That prepared me so much for the kitchen. I loved that job. The only problem with that job is that it was 5 months out of the year. So I did enjoy that. But obviously, my first summer, I needed a job. And so that was the summer. I just got married. I was 21, so I married young. And my husband was encouraging me. He's like, you're really good at cooking. You need to at least try it. You got to try it. It's one summer, and then you can go back to your ski resort job. You can do that. It's not going to hurt. So there was like no risk. I was like, I just need a job. So I applied to be a line cook at this small mom and pop place. Hold on, I gotta lock in for a second. And this is probably some of the best advice that I have for someone who's just starting out. You need your first job. I'm really glad that I started at that tiny little place because everyone learned everything. There wasn't like, oh, you're prep until you move up, your pantry, your whatever. No, I started and everybody was a line cook. That was the only job that you could work. Everyone was a line cook. You would prep your own station. You would do your own prep list. You would do dishes. You would do literally everything. I got that. Pretty good at this. Okay. Because I worked that job, I was able to go into my next job, which I'll get to later, with experience on every station, grill, saute, everything in just one summer. During that very first summer, I got my ass kicked every day, all the time. Ass kicking. I would go into work like, I'm not good at this. I suck at this. I never went to school for this. What am I doing? And it was like a high volume place, but it was such a small kitchen. It was a 2-person line. And I came in there with zero experience, hired on the spot as a line cook. This was like a crash course for me. By the end of that summer, I could work a line. I could read the tickets. I could keep my tickets organized. I could work a bunch of different stations. I could prep a station. What's going on there? Okay, sorry. My potatoes are boiling. But at the end of that summer, I actually knew that I wanted to go back to the ski resort. I had a lot of potential. I saw myself getting promoted within that department, doing that job a little longer. And I was like, well, why don't I do this winter summer type situation for a couple years while I figure out my career path in the ski industry until I get a full-time year-round job in the ski industry. So that was absolutely my plan. Went back to the ski resort that winter, and that's actually when I got promoted to supervisor in that department. Oh, I did keep the restaurant job. So I was actually working double for a year. I worked like 80 hours a week between both jobs because I would work at the ski resort in the morning, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then I would work 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the restaurant. And honestly, the main reason I did this wasn't really out of necessity, but because I couldn't choose. I couldn't get myself to quit that job because I did like it and I didn't want to let it go. I was like, I can do both. So I did both for a while. At the end of that winter, I was promoted. I saw a career in the ski industry. And so I left that winter being like, okay, I'll find a summer job. And then this winter, I'm 100% sure, I remember saying those words, I'm 100% sure I'll come back to the ski resort job. However, that summer, I was also like, well, let me see if I'm good at this cooking thing. So I looked around my town, my small little ski town, and I was like, what restaurant is always busy? Where am I going to get my ass kicked and figure out if this is for me or not? And I picked this one restaurant, middle of downtown, like biggest, busiest restaurant, which still made a lot of things from scratch. Like that wasn't fast food. All I knew about that place, I'd never even been to that restaurant because it was kind of expensive. It was like high end. It's downtown. Everywhere's expensive. So I'd never been to that restaurant. I literally applied. I walked in with my resume and I filled out a job application. And at first they didn't get back to me. And I literally showed up. I kept calling them. I called them like once a week for a month. And eventually the head chef said, okay, fine, I'll interview this girl. She's annoying. I just need to get her to shut up. I'll give her a job. And so that's what happened. I know this because the GM told me like last year, like, hey, that's how we hired you, by the way. So my advice to you is never give up. If you feel like you want to do something, like make it happen. Go and do it. Go and push forward. So anyway, they hired me at that restaurant as a line cook because most people start at the bottom. They have to start dish prep, pantry, whatever. I was able to fast track that because I had experience on every station, saute, grill, hotline, everything from my first job. That summer, I got my ass kicked so hard. Every day I went into work was just ass kicking, ass kicking, ass kicking. That was my life for about one summer. And at the end of that summer, okay, wait, I'm going to backtrack a bit. So I'm going to add this to my resume. I did have 2 jobs that summer because I was addicted to working 80 hours a week and that restaurant would not give me that many hours. So of course I had to pick up a second job just because I was an addict. So that was my life and that's all I knew how to do. So I ended up, and I'm really glad I did this, working at a butcher shop for that summer. I learned so much at that butcher shop that helped me in my career as a chef so much. If you're still at the beginning of your career and trying to learn as much as possible, go get a job at a butcher shop, a bakery, something where you're going to learn specialized skills. Because when I tell you, I went into that job not knowing the difference between a fillet and a ribeye. And I came out of that job like with butchery experience. Obviously, I knew the difference between a fillet and a ribeye after that. At the time also, I was working the grill station at that restaurant, kind of that first summer that I was there. So I was working the grill station and I was working at a butcher shop. So those 2 things really went hand in hand. And now, like, if you were to ask me my specialty, I'd 100% say it's like meat grilling, using different cuts for different things, braising, like red meat. That is my thing. Your girl loves red meat. And working as a grill cook. This place was basically a steakhouse. We put out so much steak. And it was insane. I went in there not knowing how to temp a steak to medium rare at all. Like, I knew nothing. But basically what happened is when I got hired there, the guy working grill quit on like 4th of July weekend. And I was kind of the next person. And I stepped up. I was like, you know what? I don't know really how to do this. But I talked to the guys around me. I said, hey guys, teach me. They taught me. And there were people in my life, in my career, that were willing to do that. And for them, I will be forever grateful, because by the end of that summer, yeah, I could grill a steak. Actually, by the end of that weekend, I could grill a steak. And that's how I learned. That's how I learned everything in my career, is just by pushing forward, asking, pushing past doors that seemed closed, and really just putting myself out there, trying to learn as much as possible. You guys, I still work at that restaurant. I'm the sous chef at that restaurant that I told myself I would get my ass kicked at. It was a great place. It was part of a restaurant group, and there was so much opportunity in the company. I'm actually at kind of a point in my sous chef journey right now where they're actually training me to be head chef, because the current head chef is going to move up within the company. I highly recommend restaurant groups. I think they're great. I think you get a lot of the freedom of an independent restaurant, because it wasn't a chain, so each restaurant had its own head chef and its own menu. Really, the only thing they had in common was the ownership. A lot of stability. You kind of get the benefits of corporate with also the benefits of independent restaurants while working for a restaurant group. I would recommend that career path. Obviously, there's drawbacks. Some of it is a little bit corporate. There's often things that, like, I wish I could change that, and I can't because it's a company policy. So yeah, that's kind of my whole resume. I feel like that's kind of, I don't know if you guys are surprised. 3 places, 2 restaurants and 1 butcher shop. There is an advantage to loyalty. I feel like it's not sexy to be like, oh, well, I've been at the same place for 7 years. I've had people tell me, your resume's not much. Like, that's not much. You're really not very experienced. No, I learned a lot at that one place. The way that I just kept progressing. I was the grill cook. Then the next year, the saute cook quit. And then I became the saute cook. And when I got good at saute, I started taking on more leadership roles. Like, I learned every station. I learned the pizza pantry station. I had to backtrack and learn prep, learn dish, get good at the dishwashing station, get fast, get efficient, because that is a skill, and that is not low skilled labor. At the end of 2022, so 4 years ago, I became a sous chef. And that is, even that journey, that's not like, oh, you're sous chef and then you're like, no, I've been learning so much more as a sous chef than I did. Like, if I look at myself 4 years ago with the same job title, absolutely a different person, absolutely just so much more experienced. And the same thing will happen when I get promoted to head chef. I'll start and then I'll look back and I'll be like, I knew nothing. And that is the beauty of this job. Everyone's path is different. Everyone's culinary journey is not going to look the same. You can't compare your journey to other people's journey, because people might think, oh wow, sous chef in 3-4 years, that's insane. I wish. Well, people go either ways. They either judge like, wow, you're not a real chef, because a real chef has at least 10 years, blah, blah, blah. And then there are other people who are like, oh my God, you're way ahead of me. How did you do it so fast? You're so much. No one's better than anyone. No path is better than another path. If you're in culinary school and you're like, damn, do I need to go? Everyone's path is different. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't go, but I am telling you that you don't need to go. Like, if you're going to go into debt over culinary school and you're like, damn, I really don't want to, then don't. I'm going to be honest, like, there are probably a lot of gaps in my knowledge that I had to learn later on throughout my career, because I didn't go to culinary school. I really had to learn a lot of things on the fly. I kind of had to be put on the spot of like, grill guy quit and I don't know how to temp a steak kind of situations. But I will say, I'm not going to tell you to go to culinary school or not. That's your decision. Everyone's journey is different. I'm also in a small town, which is very different than a big city. In a big city, I might not have progressed so fast. There's a lot more competition, a lot more people who want to be chefs. Where I live, it's really, if you're driven and you're reliable, you show up and you want to be there and you're good, you'll progress. There's really nothing else holding you back. There's not a lot of competition. When I was going for sous chef, I was like the only candidate. It wasn't, oh, it's me or these other 3 people. Who are they going to choose? It's like, no, it's like I was the only one doing that. So if you made it to the end, let me know if you have any more questions. What was your culinary journey? Tell me in the comments.